Bitcoin Act establishes the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, a federal initiative to ensure that the United States holds a meaningful position in the most important decentralized financial network on Earth. With an eye to fiscal responsibility and innovation, the legislation outlines a plan to phase in the acquisition of up to 1 million Bitcoin, or roughly 5% of its total final supply over 5 years. Importantly, this will be done without raising taxes or increasing government debt. The Bitcoin Act is designed to be budget neutral, relying on Federal Reserve remittances, which exceeded $76 billion in 2023, gold certificate revaluations, unlocking additional capital without new spending, and updates to the Exchange Stabilization Fund. These mechanisms allow us to build a strategic reserve without burdening taxpayers, while also potentially offsetting long-term national debt.
You hear about the strategic Bitcoin reserve more and more. If you don't think this is going to happen, this is your opportunity to front run the U.S. government. And that's going to cause FOMO globally. So you're going to front run a lot of other nation states and countries around the world. If you're not paying attention, you might miss out. With that, what's happening in Crypto Crew? Sean's coming back at you with another cryptocurrency video. Getting straight into it. What do we see? Bitcoin price at the current time it's recording is coming in at 82,370. This is Bitcoin on the 3-day. So looking at the RSI, we could be seeing a potential breakout right here. Why do we say this? Because we blasted past this downwards resistance and we could be retesting it right now. And Bitcoin is in this steady uptrend. Now this level has to hold. This is a very important point for Bitcoin. You see the MACD keeps putting in light red and light red. Will this flip into green and will we break out of this? Will the tariff talk on the second be a nothing burger? There's a lot going on. Looking at the global M2 money supply, this seems to be a lagging indicator by 48 days as far as the peak goes. So when can we expect a new peak for Bitcoin? If this is going to follow through, we could be seeing that sometime by the end of May 25th. So we could be seeing a rally through April into May. Bullishness could be around the corner. MicroStrategy, current time it's recording, post market is down to 285. On the 8-hour, we're seeing a flip to green on the Gaussian, but the MACD is showing a different story. We're seeing downwards resistance, a higher low potentially. If we look out on the 3-day as well, it looks like we could be seeing a relief rally sooner rather than later. But we're at crucial levels. This could be a reversal in the RSI, and we are oversold and potentially going to be going back into the overbought territory on the MACD. Gaussian channels just retesting certain levels. Could we see a blast up over the next 30 to 45 days? Whatever Bitcoin does is going to be indicative of MicroStrategy. And right here, Jim Cramer said today, I can't think of a dumber day to buy stocks than today. So he's saying it's dumb to buy stocks today. So inverse Cramer rule in effect, you should buy. So if the stock market is going to have some type of relief rally or a bounce or reversal, right now could be that local bottom. And Tom Lee's also saying post Wednesday, I think markets are going to have some visibility, and that allows us to take some of the selling pressure off. So after April 2nd, when Trump's tariffs go live, he's calling for the sell pressure to go off. So could we begin relief rally in some of the markets? We'll hear more from Tom Lee before this video is out, so make sure you watch to the end. Michael Saylor recently announced another 22,000 Bitcoin, $1.9 billion purchase. MicroStrategy or strategy now holds 528,000 Bitcoin. They're not stopping their buys. How fast can they get to 1 million tokens? And will they have the opportunity to get there before the price has a supply shock to the upside? They hold over $44 billion in Bitcoin. This is one of a kind company, but we'll see once this supply shock happens, what happens with Strategy's price. Tom Lee weighs in on the markets and what he sees for Bitcoin and crypto before the end of the year. He came out with this today. You don't want to miss this interview. Check it out.
You were of the view that we were at least close to making a bottom. And off camera, we were talking, I said, maybe in terms of timing, it was about a month early, but in terms of how far the markets actually went down, you're not off by that much. I think the SP is down about 6% now. Looks like it's going to be, if it opens where it is right now, it'll be in correction territory again, down 10. But you have the same kind of feeling for this week that some of the underpinnings are in for a real bottom, for a tradable bottom or a real bottom.
Yeah, I mean, both. I mean, if obviously it doesn't feel this way because over the weekend futures came under pressure, but we know markets are really oversold. We know that investors have had a lot of de-risking. And this week, I think into April 2nd, investors have three things on their minds. One is they just don't know what the tariffs look like. They don't know if it's going to damage the economy. And I think third, many are just a little terrified of the policies of the White House. But post Wednesday, I think markets are going to have some visibility that allows us to take some of the selling pressure off. So I think it's possible that instead of us breaking down here and seeing markets under further pressure, we're actually got the right pieces
buy though into this without knowing what's on the other side of it. That is the fundamental question that people are sitting around trying to figure out today and tomorrow.
That's right. It's an interminable wait for people because it is still 3 days and they're fearful that we could have 3 days of down 2%. But I kind of agree with Larry Fink. I think the U.S. is going to come out of this okay. I mean, Brexit's an example. Brexit happened and the UK economy emerged okay. It didn't have a huge recession and the stock market did okay. So for investors today, over the weekend, we had so many thinking the economy is going to completely fall off the rails after Wednesday. I mean, there's a lot of distortions of the economy now, right? Because we know people are buying cars and wine ahead of tariffs, and that's creating inflation. I think it's possible economists are only dialing in the negative consequences so far, but not the positive, because rates are down and gasoline's down, and there could be some pull forward of demand. So we might end up having better growth, so less stag, and maybe the inflation stuff is more distorting, and so it's not as stagflationary. Goldman did raise their inflation forecast, but then they're talking about more rate cuts.
I know.
And I think we'll have a glimpse of what Fed Chair Powell's thinking because he's speaking Friday after the jobs report. And I do think that it remains a more dovish Fed than many expect. I mean, I think that's what was revealed after the March FOMC meeting. And not that I'm saying it's going to put a reversal of markets here, but I think investors are a little too scared heading into winter.
Bitcoin's testing recent near-term lows, I guess, again. It's been under 80. It's not quite there yet. Definitely as a risk-off trade. And when the NASDAQ goes down, Bitcoin seems to go down. But it also really likes the idea of more Fed rate cuts or the Fed being more lenient. So if we get that on Friday, is this a decent time to be stacking?
I think so.
You do, at 80.
Yeah, I think part of this was Bitcoin seasonally was just not going to be attractive until after March ends. And now we're finally exiting March. And so I think not only is the calendar looking better, but as you're saying, Fed and central banks are easing, QT's ending. I think that with positive Washington sort of tailwinds means I think Bitcoin can do well to the end of the year. I think it's still 150 or higher is possible. I know it doesn't feel like it, but once we get through this tariff and that agenda around tariffs, markets can look forward to things that could be positive.